Hello there, it's Samantha. Welcome or welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Samantha and this is my channel where I talk all about books. Today I'm going to be looking like a bit of a mess with my very wet hair, but it is winter. I use natural light to film and the sun is going down. So I was like, I either have time to dry my hair or film. And what's the point in drying my hair if I'm then not gonna film? So we're filming a video with wet hair. My apologies. Today I'm going to be talking about all of the books I've read since my last wrap up. The last time I did a wrap up was in August. I would love to say that because it's been such a long time, I have loads of books to talk about, but I don't, because as you know, I've been in a reading slump. So I only have 7 books on this list, 2 of which were DNFs. I do have 2 other DNFs, which I'll mention very briefly, but the other 2 that I actually have marked as read, I had read like well over half of the book, so I marked it as completed. But normally I don't with DNFs, but with these ones, it's because normally when I don't finish a book, I give up like 100 pages in, so I don't think it's worth it. But with these ones, I gave it so much time and I still didn't finish it, so I marked it as read. And then we have some other books. I don't really feel particularly passionate about any of them, so I apologize about that, but let's just talk about the books, shall we? Okay. The first one that I have is And That's When It Fell Off in My Hand by Louise Renison. I believe this is the 5th book in the Georgia Nicholson series. Yes, it is the 5th book. I started rereading the series in the summer because they were so much fun and very nostalgic for me, but they're also very, very much trash. And it just is about this girl called Georgia Nicholson growing up in England in like the noughties, I think, and like kind of coming of age, starting to be interested in boys, her crazy friendship group, her wild younger sister, and her weird cat. These books are so much fun. I really enjoyed rereading the first 5. I do want to finish rereading the books, but at the moment I'm prioritizing reading books that I haven't read before so that I can get my TBR down, because one of my goals was to get my physical TBR down to, I can't remember if it was 20 or 10. I'm pretty far away from both of those goals, so yeah. I'm trying to focus on getting my physical TBR down as much as possible, but I will finish rereading the series at some point. That's the first book I read in September. I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read in September was Blackout by a bunch of different authors. This is an anthology of short stories that all take place during this blackout in New York, and they all follow sort of different couples and talk about like what they're all going through during the blackout. I am not a fan of short stories very much. They're okay, but I feel like for me, it's just not enough time to get to know the characters. And also with collections especially, I find it weird that you can't, like sometimes you can't just sit there and read all of them in one go. Like you kind of have to stop because you're changing stories entirely. With this one it was a bit different because there is overlap between the different stories, so there are characters that cross over, which is good. It made it easier to be able to like read it quickly. And I did read it quickly. I did really enjoy it. I didn't actually officially give it a rating on Goodreads, but I think I'm giving it 3 stars probably. There's nothing wrong with it. I just don't like short stories. So yeah, but for a short story collection, I think it was really well done. Maybe 4 stars, but the thing is, like, for me personally, it's not memorable at all. I don't remember any of the characters or any of the stories, so that's why for me it's like a 3 star, because it's just like, it is what it is. Would recommend if you like short stories. Next I read Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. This is a little like, almost like a self-help. I think it's often categorized as self-help, but I would just call it like nonfiction essays about writing and creativity. I really enjoyed this when I read it. It's also like super easy to read. Like I think that Elizabeth Gilbert has a very digestible writing style, so I definitely want to read her fiction as well. And I'm kind of tempted to read Eat, Pray, Love, because she's the author of Eat, Pray, Love, if you didn't know. I'm kind of tempted to read it just because I enjoyed this so much, but at the same time I have never had any interest in Eat, Pray, Love. I don't know, but I do think that this is definitely something that I felt very creative whilst I was reading it. I was really enjoying it. It's something I want to buy for myself so that I can revisit it, because I borrowed it from the library. So yeah, I would definitely recommend it if you are feeling a bit stuck in a rut and you want to boost your creativity, but there is a big focus on writing. So yeah, I'd say it's more for writers than other creatives maybe, but you might also get something from it even if you're not a writer. I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. And then we move on to the DNFs. I had 4 DNFs in a row, and this was the start of the slump. So let's just talk about them briefly. So the first one, I literally read 2/3 of this book, and then I just realized that I didn't care at all about any of the characters or the plot. Anyway, that book was The Winter's Curse by Marie Rutkowski. I had owned this book since I don't know, 2016. And back then I was really interested in the premise, but at this point in time, no. There was nothing particularly wrong with this book. Like, I think the writing was very easy to get into. Like, I was definitely enjoying my time with the book in the beginning, and then I just kept on going, and I was just like, oh, you know what? I actually just do not care at all about the characters, the world, the plot, nothing about it. I just didn't care. And I had like 100 pages to go, and I was like, no, I'm just not going to do it. So I decided to DNF that book. So yeah, that's the one that started it all. The next DNF that I had was a book called All of Me by Shannon O'Connor. I got this book for review. I got the ebook of it. I didn't mark this as read anywhere, and I'm not counting it towards my Goodreads goal for the year because I didn't read that much of it. I think I read like a quarter of it, but I DNF'd this one because I just really wasn't vibing with the writing style. It's very much like showing, not telling. No, sorry. It was very much telling, not showing. And yeah, I just didn't vibe with the writing style at all. The love interest was annoying me. And yeah, so I didn't finish that one either. And then the next DNF that I had is one that I am counting towards my goal because I read so much of it again. I think I read like 300 pages of this book, and then I was like, no. Anyway, but that book was unfortunately Firekeeper's Daughter by Angeline Boulley. I had very high hopes for this book. I'd heard nothing but amazing things. And it's basically like a young adult thriller mystery following this girl who is basically just very close to this investigation about all of these people who keep on dying. It was not good. This is one of those books that frustrates me because it has so many good reviews and I really wanted to love it, but I don't understand why everyone loves it as much as they do. Not to sound like a bitch, but I just don't get it because the main character was insufferable. She had a very much like a I'm not like other girls complex, which she mentioned a lot. And also she was very insensitive, which I just didn't vibe with because I feel like I am a sensitive person. And like her mom would be crying and upset and she'd just be like rolling her eyes like, oh my god, my mom's so ridiculous. Her mom had good reason to be crying. Her brother had just died and her mom was in hospital and she was just so horrible because of the main character being insufferable. I didn't want to read the book and I was not interested in the mystery at all. So I stopped reading it 300 pages in, which is a shame because like I said, I wanted to love it. The next book that I DNF'd was I Darken by Kirsten White. Again, this is a book that I bought in 2016 and just never got to it. And I really feel like this year has proven to me that like young adult, especially young adult from like 4 years ago, is not my vibe anymore. It's not something that I enjoy reading particularly. Like sometimes I'll get through it, but it will be like a 3-star read. I don't think there's gonna be a new favorite from that era. I'm definitely not giving up on young adult. Like there are so many books that have come out that I'm interested in, but now I know that there's specific genres within young adult that I enjoy still, like young adult fantasy. I definitely still want to give a try. I know that like new young adult contemporary books coming out, they're just not going to be for me. I'm in such a different stage of my life. And now I feel like, I don't know when it happened, but I don't relate to young adult characters anymore. I'm not giving up on young adult, but I just think I need to stay away from it a bit more. I Darken, I think I would maybe give this one another shot, but maybe not. I don't know. At the moment, I'm thinking it's in my unhaul box because I just think like I could love it, but I don't know. I don't think I will. So I think I'm gonna get rid of it. It was just kind of boring at the time. And then also I think by this point I was already in my reading slump from having 3 DNFs in a row. So yeah, I think I read like 80 pages of this and then I put it in the unhaul box. So we will see. Anyway, moving on to October. I read one book, which I started in September, but it took me such a long time to get through. But that book was The Alice Network by Kate Quinn. You may remember that in my last wrap up, I was raving about a different book by Kate Quinn, which was The Rose Code. I love that book with my whole heart. And so I had such high expectations for this book and it fell flat. And I think it's partially because of my high expectations and partially because of being in a reading slump already, because it just took me such a long time to get through it. And I think that that was the issue. I think if I read this book more quickly, I would have enjoyed it more, but I still don't think it was anywhere near as good as The Rose Code. It basically follows 2 women, one of which is a spy during World War I. So we follow her life story and then we alternate chapters with a woman in post-World War II, but still the 1940s, who is looking for her cousin who is supposed to be part of the resistance in France and may have links to this other woman whose story we read from in World War I. Charlie, who is the American woman in the 1940s, she goes to the UK, tracks down Evelyn, who's the other woman, and tries to get answers from her. They end up going on a road trip around France, trying to find answers to where her cousin is, and also tracking down this guy. I was thinking it was gonna be so amazing because I loved the Rose Code so much. I felt like it was so thrilling, and I just did not have the same feeling from this book at all. I was pretty bored. I didn't like the main characters so much. Yeah, all in all, I was just very disappointed by it. So if you've read the Rose Code, go into this with much lower expectations, and then maybe you'll enjoy it more. Or if you haven't read the Rose Code yet, I would suggest picking this one up first and then reading the Rose Code, or just get this one all together. It was good, but I don't know. I was expecting so much more. But Kate Quinn is releasing a new book next year, which I didn't even know about until today, and I will be reading it, and hopefully it lives up to the Rose Code. And the final book that I read in November. I literally finished it on November 30th. Whoops. But that was The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I was actually rereading this book. I first read it last summer. I actually had an arc of it, and I loved it so much the first time, and I was like blown away by the ending. So I was so excited for the sequel. The sequel came out in September, and I was like, I need to reread this book first because I'd actually forgotten the ending. So I made myself reread it, and I still really enjoyed it, but last time I read it in 24 hours, and this time I read it in an entire month. So yeah, definitely not the same, but again, reading slump, not the book's fault. I'm sticking with 4.5 stars for this one, even though I feel like that doesn't really align with how I felt about it this time, but I know that last year I loved it. So I'm gonna stick with 4.5 because I think it's just me, not the book's fault. But I do love this book. If you don't know what it's about, it basically follows our main character, Avery, who doesn't really have a lot of money at all. She's actually living in her car at the beginning of the book, and she goes into school one day, and the principal calls her into his office, and turns out it's because a billionaire has died and left her his entire fortune. The only catch is that she has to go and live in his house with his family who he disinherited, and obviously they all hate her because they think that they deserved that money. And there's also like some like puzzles and mysteries involved in like why was she chosen, because it seems very random. It's a really fun time. I say it every time, but if you liked the movie Knives Out, you'll enjoy this book, I think. But yeah, it was definitely good, but I think this time around I just picked up on some of the high school drama a bit more than I did the first time. And the first time it didn't bother me, this time it did, but it's fine. I still really enjoyed myself. I just started reading the second book, and so far so good. Anyway, so those were the 5 books that I read and the 4 DNFs that I had in the last 3 months. Pretty bad for reading, not gonna lie. I'm currently reading 2 books that I'm really enjoying, so hopefully December is a wonderful reading month. If you missed my TBR, I'll link it up in the card for you, and you can go check out what I'm planning to read to finish off the year. But yes, that is all that I have to talk about. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you liked it. If you did, please give a thumbs up. If you're new here, feel free to subscribe down below, and I am posting a lot this month, so I will see you very soon with another video. Bye.